Hi folks, Reverend Crystal Cox here, and I'm going to read to you today out of the book called High Mysticism by Emma Curtis Hopkins. She was a spiritual leader of the 1800s, and this book here kind of does stuff from the past, but a lot of her class lessons and stuff were from 1888. I'm just going to read to you the beginning message and hope that you try to find this book. Again, it's High Mysticism, a series of 12 studies in the wisdom of the sages of the ages by Emma Curtis Hopkins. Okay, the message of Emma Curtis Hopkins. During the many years of the active ministry of Emma Curtis Hopkins, over 50,000 individuals came to her for instruction. Numbered among them were ministers, priests, lawyers, physicians, artists, businessmen, and people from every walk of life. She was known as the teacher of teachers, as so many of her students later became teachers and carried the message of the High Watch. To the far corners of the earth, several of the well-known schools of advanced thought in this country were founded by her students. It is said that the glory of her teaching is that it arouses the hidden creative genius in the student so that he goes forth inspired to accomplish some great work of a unique and inimitable sort by the recognition of his own inherent divinity. To awaken this divine sense in her readers is the chief aim of the writings which she has left with us. The studies in High Mysticism contain her latest writings, the full bloom of her spiritual unfoldment. They are acknowledged to be among the finest examples of mystical writings. Mrs. Hopkins was herself a mystic of a new type. She sang the song of the life triumphant over loss, pain, sickness, poverty, sin, and death, and the joy that comes from living the Christ life. Here we have no identifying with suffering and grief, but the fuller doctrine of Jesus Christ, the rise from ignorance to the liberty of the sons of God. The bringing forth of this type, spiritually bold and executive, is the fruition toward which all religions and philosophies are bent. She restates the teachings of the sages of the ages in a clear, simple fashion. She points out the method whereby the earnest student may find God in the inmost sanctuary of his being. For truly the highest is the nearest, most distant, yet most present, and we are in his image. The highest God and the inmost God is one God. She tells us that the sacred books of all ages mention three sciences: material, mental, mystical. Material science declares laws that are sure, as iron sharpens iron and hydrogen and oxygen clashing together fall into thirst-quenching water. The sacred books proclaim a mental science to which the world can subscribe, as all that we are is made up of our thoughts. Mystical science announces the miracles of predicateless being, setting the ways of matter at naught and nullifying the thoughts of the mind. The flesh profiteth nothing, take no thought. In such a moment as ye think not. Mystical science is the chalice of golden wine passed along to the sons of men by John's angels of the Apocalypse. It is a new song for the hearts of the children of the new age. The mystical science is the oldest science in the world. It concerns that swift, subtle faculty possessed by us all, whereby we look whithersoever we will, to the deity ever beholding us, or to the dust beneath, without the aid of our physical eyes. Thou canst not behold me with thy two outer eyes. I have given thee an eye divine. The divine eye, or vision, is the sense with which we perceive truth or reality. This faculty, swifter than the fleetest thought, being steadfastly rested upon any given point, can bring back to the waiting mind all the facts that pertain to the resting place. It is the lifting up of this sense out of the network of materiality, the wheel of incessant grind that takes man above his disasters and difficulties. We are all harvesting according to our inner viewings. What are ye troubled? Asked Jesus. Why do thoughts arise in your hearts? Hegel gives a scientific answer to these questions. We always look toward an object before thinking it, he wrote, and it is by having oft recourse to inward viewing that then the mind goes on to know and comprehend. Therefore, vision often Godward and live anew. So shall the body be like a tree planted by rivers of water, whose leaf fadeth not. Vision often Godward, so that affairs also may go well. Gaze often toward our Father, and all thoughts shall be like morning music. Lift up an inward looking now, and then to a country whose ether winds ever rang forth their healing aura, are fleet remedials for all the world's unhappiness. The one-volume edition of the 12 Studies in High Mysticism fulfills a purpose stated by Mrs. Hopkins in one of the very early printings of the second study. In due time, all the 12 lessons will appear in one book. A companion book to High Mysticism is the Resume, practice book for the 12 studies. Now, it says High Watch Fellowship, because that was her fellowship. And then it goes into the rest of the book, and again, this was in the 1800s, and before it starts the first chapter, it has this quote, "Consider now with me in joyful amazement the unity of discovery throughout the centuries which the Illuminati have made, as to that practice of the presence of deity most surely leading to divine imbuement. Anyway, pronouncing, some words aren't easy. But I just wanted to share this with you. I'm not going to read the book to you. I might read some more out of it another day for you. But again, it's High Mysticism by Emma Curtis Hopkins. In the back it says, Emma Curtis Hopkins was an influential figure in the New Thought movement in the late 19th century. She was a student of Mary Baker Eddy, but left the Christian Science Church and founded her own seminary. She was a dedicated teacher and healer. Among her students were Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, founders of Unity Church, and Ernst Holmes, founder of the Church of Religious Science. Mrs. Hopkins' aim in her classes and writings was always to help her students to penetrate through the veil of things as they appear to the heart of reality. God bless you all.